Item 10C, receive a report regarding the California Supreme Court's decision to eliminate redevelopment agencies and adopt a resolution determining that the city shall serve as the successor agency for the redevelopment agency and electing to retain the redevelopment agency's housing, assets, and functions.
Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. About 13 years ago in 1999, the City Council formed the San Bruno Redevelopment Agency, and it was passed by a vote. And since then, the Redevelopment Agency has done a number of incredible things. First and foremost, the crossing was created through a specific plan process that was funded through redevelopment. Over 300 units of affordable housing are subsidized by redevelopment funds. The retail was also subsidized. The medians on El Camino and a number of infrastructure and road projects were also created, and not to mention the many facade improvements downtown. Unfortunately, in late June of last year, the state legislature passed two bills. They passed AB 1X26 and AB 1X27. I'll just call them AB 26 and 27. Essentially what they did is AB 26 eliminated redevelopment agencies, and AB 27 gave an opportunity for cities to continue the redevelopment agencies if a big payment is made and they're on a more limited basis, probably at a 70–80% basis of what redevelopment agencies were beforehand. The California Redevelopment Association and League of California Cities shortly thereafter sued the state, stating that both AB 26 and AB 27 were unconstitutional because of Prop 22. I think the City Council remembers Prop 22 was recently overwhelmingly passed by the voters to stop the state from raiding local funds. And the court considered this, and unfortunately the end result was the worst case scenario for cities and redevelopment agencies. What the court decided was AB 26 was constitutional. It was consistent with Prop 22, and the reason being is that the state was not actually raiding local funds. They were eliminating redevelopment agencies completely. And since the state created redevelopment agencies, they were allowed to take them out. Now, why this is the worst case scenario is that the court also decided that AB 27 was not constitutional and that it did violate Prop 22. So it essentially said, redevelopment agencies, you're eliminated, but you have no way to resume. So the end result is, as of February 1st, AB 26 states that redevelopment agencies are no longer in effect here in San Bruno and the over 400 agencies through the state of California. Obviously, this has huge economic development impacts statewide and huge fiscal and operational impacts in each city. I'm not going to focus on the fiscal and operational impacts at this. That will come back at a future City Council meeting, a close City Council meeting. We're here tonight to talk about two procedural aspects of AB 26 that need to be taken care of immediately, and that's the formation of a successor agency to take on all the obligations and contracts that the redevelopment agency currently has in place. What AB 26 allows the cities to do is declare themselves the successor agency. There's a number of advantages to do this and no real downside. I've listed the advantages in the staff report, and I won't go over those one by one, but the overall picture is that it retains the most local control possible, both from the redevelopment operations side as well as the housing side. There are a number, unfortunately, although those two things are clear, there are a number of things in AB 26 that are not clear. And it's a very fluid situation and changing on a day-to-day standpoint. And I'd say the major reason why, number one, AB 26, when it was first created, I think was created in quite a rush. And number two, AB 26 was created thinking that AB 27 was going to be in effect and that cities would continue to operate under AB 27. So now that all the cities and the state and all the attorneys associated with redevelopment are looking at AB 26, there's a lot of holes in it. And on a day-to-day basis, we're trying to figure out what those holes are and how that will fiscally and operationally impact the city of San Bruno. I'm just going to give you a couple examples here. Currently, there's a big question on what happens about the properties that agencies own. Who takes over those? You know, right now it says that the agencies have to get rid of the properties that they own. Now, The current interpretation, our understanding of it, is that means it goes to the agency that it makes most sense to take control of them. So in most cases, that would be the city. Obviously, whether or not we're able to control those properties has huge fiscal and operational impacts. That's something we need to get clarified and bring back to the City Council. The second has to do with administrative costs. By forming the successor agency for the city to control, the AB 26 says every successor agency gets a minimum of $250,000 each fiscal year to look over those fiscal costs, or 5% for the next year. But it's not clear, is that 5% the total tax increment in 2011 to 2012 that we normally get, or is it just the portion of tax increment that we would get from July 1st of last year till the agency is dissolved on February 1st? That once again will have implications on an ongoing basis, how much cash we have for administrative costs. I'll give you one more example. Currently, as AB 26 is written, below market rate housing funds that you have in the bank, we have about $2.5 million in the bank, would be dissolved. They would be gone. No more, there would not be local control of those. Fortunately, we just got an email about an hour ago that a bill has passed the Housing Committee that would change this, and it would be an urgency bill, and that agencies, the successor agencies, would be able to control that money that they have in the bank and spend it on their housing priorities that they have. There's a big push right now from the affordable housing advocates to make this happen, and it passed out of the committee without objection on an 8-0 vote. So hopefully that comes into fruition soon, and we have at least some good news to report back to the City Council. A few things that you should know about that are going on behind the scenes. CRA and the League of California Cities are essentially taking a two-pronged approach to this. The first and immediate action they're taking is trying to get that February 1st date pushed back to give cities some breathing room and to be able to really clarify what's the content of AB 26 is there, and hopefully work on some fix to AB 26 to let redevelopment agencies continue in some form. And that's the second prong strategy. It probably won't be called redevelopment. It may be called something else. It may be more focused than it was, but the CRA and the League are really trying to work to get cities some tool to do the economic development things that redevelopment did well. So hopefully we'll have better news to report on this coming up, but as it is right now, the news is that redevelopment agencies dissolve as of February 1st, and that's the action that we have to go with. We will be bringing back an item, additional updates at the 24th, January 24th City Council meeting, and there's also other procedural events that we have to go through at that meeting as well that we'll take forward at that time. So I could take any questions. Any questions?
All right.
Mr. Mayor?
13 years. I think what's painful about it is that we've seen in front of our eyes, and a few of us have sat up here and we've made decisions that have improved this community. And it's just really painful to think that there's still plans and that we've had to change and even eliminate some plans because of this. What I don't understand is, and we've heard through the media and things that the Sacramento legislators have, they're apologizing and things because they didn't intend for 27 to do that. But for the lay people, for the people that don't know, that don't understand the complexities of redevelopment, the bottom line is that Sacramento did not get the state does not get as much as your property tax dollars if redevelopment is in place. And so by eliminating redevelopment, they get back their lion's share of your property tax dollars. So my question would be, the only people that can change AB 26 or some form of reinstating redevelopment would be the state legislature, right?
Correct.
And it's all going to be predicated on how much money they can keep from our property tax dollars.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So it doesn't look good from the local standpoint.
No, it doesn't. I think that the argument that CRA and the League are going to use, which is true, is that without redevelopment, you do not have the economic development tool that creates jobs. And when you don't have that job-creating ability, you're going to have an overall lesser tax base in which the state gets. So by reinstituting redevelopment 2.0 in some form, you're going to be able to create jobs, you're going to be able to grow your tax base to the point that not only does it have a positive impact on local communities, it has a positive impact on the overall state fiscal, the fiscal area.
Irene?
Thank you. Has anything been said or determined about what would happen with current obligations that we have? Like, we still owe money on the police station, and we've been paying it back by redevelopment funds, so what happens now?
So the way the AB 26 was written, those existing contractually obligated aspects of redevelopment are able to continue. So if you have a loan that you have to repay that the agency owns, if you have the housing payments that go to the affordable housing at the crossing, those are able to continue, and your successor agency makes those payments.
Okay, so the money comes still from the tax increment? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
We should have
Rico?
borrowed more money.
All right, but you still want us to adopt this resolution
Correct.
for the successor
Yes.
agencies? All right, would someone like to introduce the resolution for adoption?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Board Member O'Connell.
Aye.
Board Member Medina.
Aye.
Board Member Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Chair Ivera.
Aye.
Chair Roulette.
Aye.